It's the Mike Calta Show. It's 102.5 The Bone, and now sitting down with us. Now I have to run you through the gauntlet here. This is Tyrus. You know him from Fox News. When we first met, you were Brodus.
Yes.
And I was Cowhead.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
And we were in an elevator, and I was telling you, my dad had taken a picture of you when you split your head open at a house show, and there was a puddle of blood.
That was a pay-per-view.
It was pay-per-view? I knew it was something.
Yes.
And you were like, can you send me that? Because the WWE never lets us see those pictures.
Yes. And I still have that picture.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I've been searching for the last 3 hours trying to find it in my phone.
No, because the way I was laying on the ground, the way the blood came out, it looked like a murder scene.
Yeah.
What happened was, okay, so I don't know if I told you in the elevator. So Christian, and that was the night that he won the championship.
Right.
So it was a bad night for me and Alberto.
Yeah.
But so earlier in the day, they're bringing all the ladders out there.
Yeah.
And there was this little tiny ladder, and I made a joke. I said, hey, you might not be strong enough to take these big ladders. Why don't you use this little ladder right here, like just being a heel?
Right.
And he was like, real funny. So the match happens, and we actually we were in a similar situation where Jim Cornette was hanging.
Right.
And Bossman, or Big Bubba at the time, caught him, or it didn't catch him. He ended up blowing his knees, and it was the same as we call the spot.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I'll catch you.
Yeah.
I've watched that match a million times. It was
We will not
Cornette's
let that
fault.
happen again.
It wasn't Bubba's fault.
Yeah.
But I got you. Don't you worry about it. And so when it happened, I caught him and everything and threw him down. And when I went, he reached out and he grabbed that little ass ladder. And then when he hit me with that ladder, it busted me wide open. But you would get fined for bleeding in the ring.
Yeah.
I'm telling you guys, this is a medical mystery, or I don't know how I did it. As soon as I felt it, I was starting to fall backwards, and I corrected myself and fell through the second ropes to the floor. I didn't get one drop of blood on the mat.
So
it was all on the mat. So it was bleeding everywhere, right? And I get to the back, and the doc had to put 15 staples in my head. And Dusty walks in, he was like, hell, man, we ready for the Omni, baby. we do this every night, And the guy, Triple H came back, and they're like, you tough, son? And then like, hey, why didn't you stay in the ring? And I was like, I didn't want to get fined.
No kidding.
They started laughing because, hey, $500 for mid-card, that's a lot of money, bro.
Yeah.
So, but that's one of the cooler moments in my career. I always think back because people thought I was in. I still had to get up because Alberto had fell and I had to catch him.
Right.
So, and I remember the ref kept trying to put a towel on me. And the ref, Spider, who I travel with, he was like, "You okay?" I was like, "Get up! Don't touch me, dog. Like, leave me alone." He's like, "You're bleeding everywhere." I'm like, "It's not that bad." But when I look back at that picture, I was like, "Wow, I probably dropped a pint of blood."
It looked pretty awful.
You don't realize how much you bleed from the top of your head.
How come you don't freak out? I'm a big guy. If I had blood like that, I'd be freaking out.
I think for one, when people depend on you, I think your mindset is. And me, Alberto about to fall from a 20-foot ladder
could be
to
worse
the floor
if you don't.
And me saying, well, I couldn't go because I had a boo-boo on my head.
Right.
Being an offensive lineman, being in real fights, working in bars, bodyguarding, when you get to the simulated combat that is our sport, I didn't feel that anything that happened there, you didn't already have an understanding. The weird things happen. But like that cut was a weird thing that wasn't supposed to happen, but it happened. But to panic in those situations would say a lot about you as a man.
I was going to say, that says a lot about you.
Like,
Back in the day, it would be great because I introduced you to my son, who was probably like 8 at the time, and I was super cool. Now, I introduced you to my dad, and my dad
it's kind of weird how it changes.
Yeah.
I went from kids then. The syndicate. What it is, big baby. How are you guys?
My dad is obsessed with you to the point where he's mad because he can't figure out who you wrestle with, and like like you were coming somewhere, but it wasn't Tampa.
Oh, it was when I was with the NWA.
NWA,
Yes.
And I
And,
go,
we
I
did a
don't
show
know.
in Tampa.
Yes, but he couldn't figure out where because it's not big like at the Amalie
Well, what was
Arena.
crazy was when they booked it, they had booked a smaller because the NWA was. Billy is still growing the company, and they did like I think it was like a 3,000 seat or whatever it was, but it had sold out in an hour because I was coming to Tampa.
Yeah.
So, but they were still keeping the trajectory because they're like, listen, we don't know how much longer you're going to keep going,
right?
And if you're going to stay with us another 4 years, then we'll
do it. Yeah.
Because once the NWA Championship was on the Super Bowl, I felt that my work was done.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And look, I wrestling will never not be a part of my life. Every morning when I go get on the bike, I'm watching nothing but either Georgia or Right now, I'm knee deep in when Barry Windham just turned on Lex Luger.
Oh, you're going back.
Oh, but that's the stuff you watch if you want to learn how to work.
Yeah.
You just watch Horseman.
Yeah.
And you watch if you want every guy in this is the WWE, WWF, WCW in Georgia Championship Wrestling. Every match had a story. So whether it was whether they were fighting over just getting the win or the two, everything was personal, and every match had a story. There was a feud that you would follow, and guys would build these feuds, and they would have them all the way up at the top of the card, and that's how you create your art.
Any
is
sort
by
of
telling
heat,
a
any
story.
sort of
So you're not going to get it from superstars of the WWF because guys would come in and have your stars would squash match.
Right.
And then you would, and then the main event, Hogan had the storyline.
Yeah.
Savage had the storyline. And it was like the Intercontinental Championship and the World Championship, and then a couple feuds here and there. And most of the time it was just guys having matches. That was and listen, you can't knock it because it ended up being the winner.
The biggest thing.
But in terms of learning, you got to watch the old stuff.
Right.
You got to watch that stuff to really, and I tell guys that, watch stuff. Plus, you'll see things you can steal that they don't do anymore.
Borrow.
Well, everything's stolen. Like otherwise, Thunderbolt Patterson would have. There would have been no Dusty Rhodes if you don't have Thunderbolt Patterson.
Yeah.
Who is your guy coming up? Who is the one that you were like, I want to be like him? I want to do
Haku.
that. Yeah.
That's all I wanted to be. Yeah,
Just
and
big and mean.
And what's crazy is like he's family now. He's my son's grandfather.
Oh, nice.
So he's pa now. And he's such it's crazy. He's such an amazing grandfather. He's a grandfather to all my children, even the ones that are not his. Like, he's pa to everyone.
Right.
Why is it that everybody says out of all the guys in wrestling, Haku is easily the toughest guy? Nobody wants to fight Haku.
You know what? Probably because it's true.
Yeah, I mean, but did he whip a lot of ass, or did he just have the reputation?
You can reputation stories. I think whenever someone's legit, when you come from a background. That he did, the sumo background, growing up in Tonga, being handpicked to go to Japan to sumo, to go through what he went through to get to the WWE. His first match was against Big John Studd at Madison Square Garden, and he had flown in from Egypt. And if you want to watch a match, you want to see where two big guys, just let's go. And Big John Studd's chest tore up, and the place is going. When he does the haka dance, when he knocks him out of the ring, and the place is Madison Square Garden's going insane.
Yeah.
I get goosebumps just talking about it, and the next thing I know, I want to be a wrestler. But he was so committed to the character, and I think that's the thing. And then legends, and there's some off the field stuff, but I think when you're legit, you don't have to talk about it.
Right.
And the guy who's got fight stories that he tells himself.
Right.
I'm not worried about that guy.
Yeah.
I'm also not worried about the guy who walks around who acts the toughest and makes loud noises.
That's
when he
me. I'm the guy who
weights.
says you could beat up a bobcat and all
Yeah,
that stuff.
it's the guy when the fight's going on and there's the guy in the corner who's like this.
Yeah.
That's the
A little
guy you watch
smirk.
out for.
That's always how I carried myself and recognized we met. Like I was dating his daughter, and everyone was like, "You are out of your mind." And she's like, "Hey, my dad wants to meet you," and I was like, "Cool."
Yeah, I bet he does.
We met at a Golden Corral, and it was crazy. Our plates identically matched.
Right.
We picked the same foods.
Yeah.
Little pot roast for everybody.
And as soon as I handed him, I said, "Hey, man, I got to talk to you about Madison Square Garden before we talk about your daughter." Because that's
priority.
And we've been best friends like ever since then.
That's cool.
And,
That's great.
Yeah. So he's super cool. And again, when you have a match like Funkasaurus was hard for me.
Yeah.
Because it was like a punishment at first, and it was when I was going to quit. Like real talk, I was going to quit.
Yeah.
I went back, and when I debuted on TV, Dusty had already chewed my ass, and he says, "You think you're better than me?" He put me in polka dots. I made money with it. Like, what's your issue?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to dance. That's just not who I am, and I don't want to do it. And I went home, and I was on Monday Night Raw, and the tape, and it's a Wednesday, and he comes in, and I press play, and he's just laughing and clapping, and he's like, "I'm so proud of you. This is so great." And I was like, "No, I'm dancing, and it's bad." And he's like, "This is great. You could do this to your 100." He's like, "You do a little dance, you kick it." He's like, "I'm so proud. Whose idea was this?" And I was like, "It's mine." But it changed my entire outlook on what it is, because that's not what my dream was.
Right.
But then, you make it work. And now when I look back at it, when I have people who stop, they're grown now, which is a little daunting.
We all got old.
And Father Time's funny. And they'll come up to me like, "Yo, you brought me in the ring and I danced with you." And I was like, you know what? JYD did that.
Yeah.
And like I was always like, I always wanted to wish I could have been in the ring with JYD. So it's kind of cool. That's actually better than the championship. And I got a chance to capture championship gold with the NWA, and that was cool for my career. But when I look back on it, none of my heroes had titles. Like Big John Studd, Paul Orndorff, Haku, he was tag team champs with Andre the Giant, which is my favorite tag team of all time.
Yeah.
But I mean, very rarely are the guy Hercules Hernandez, the guys that I loved and wanted to be like and emulate, they never had titles in the WWF, every places they did. But so for me, that really helped me put things in perspective when I look back at my career.
How do you make the big jump now? I mean, it must be so hard to. And I watched the 5. I've watched you for a long time. I see that you belong there. But a lot of these people don't take wrestlers seriously in the first place, let alone something as serious as this.
Not until you kick their ass on TV.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, like I always said, there's nobody smarter and more clever than a wrestler, because we got to do it now.
Right.
We're not like, that's why acting is pretty easy, but the retakes drive us crazy because we're not used to those retakes.
Sure.
So that's the biggest adjustment for wrestlers when it comes to acting. But if you're a smart dude, and I've always been smart, and our locker rooms was very different than the locker rooms before us. All our locker rooms was one-upping each other and knowing everything. And then when you have somebody like Glenn Jacobs, who is talking about saving your money and what to do with your money and how your taxation works and things like that. And at first I'll be like, I'm not paying attention to that. I'd rather make fun of, Kofi for wearing white leather shoes. And, and then all of a sudden it was like, hey, what is he talking about? And then it makes sense. And when you have guys that were talking about futures and they're like, and one of the things, my last day in the WWE, I came into the facility to roll around because I was getting to relaunch. Right. And Dusty was there, and it was the weirdest thing. And he was playing the damn music I can't stand. He was playing Sweet Caroline, and he's got the whole place. He's got the whole place empty. There's nobody else in there. And I was like, I thought I was gonna have a couple guys roll around with me. And he's like, I want to talk to you. And and I was like, he's like, get out of the ring. And then we sat down, and he kept the music loud because he didn't want anybody else to hear. And he says, I need you to paint your canvas. The entire time you've been here, you haven't painted your canvas. You haven't done what you want to do yet, and it might not be here. Might be somewhere else.
Wow.
He's like, so no matter what happens, and I was like, oh, okay, boss. He's like, I need you to be you. And he's like, be you. And I was like, okay. And didn't understand it, but he always talked to me in riddles. And of course, the next day I got canned, so then I figured out, son of a bitch, he knew. Mm-hmm. But he couldn't tell me because he wasn't allowed to. Right. But he kind of
gave
was just
nice
like,
right.
But he told me in the words, it's like, you're better than this place treats you, is what and I have absolutely no issues with the WWE. It is what it is. But it forced me to say, I'm going to paint my canvas. And so I went to TNA. Called me. I was unemployed in wrestling for about 8 seconds.
That's good. Mm-hmm.
So I was in TNA, Japan. I'm doing all these things, and then I get one opportunity on Fox, and I make one joke, and Greg was like, "I would make you a co-host," and I literally said to him, "I'm a wrestler."
Yeah.
And I don't do talk show TV. Basically, was the gist of it in a polite way. And then he was like, once a month. And then I started going, and then all of a sudden the big Fox money started coming. And
I don't want to get thrown through a ladder anymore.
I was able to juggle the both of them and then build a career. And then I wrote the book. And then all of a sudden I have all these revenue streams coming in, and my kids are getting older. And like my kids now have events. And it's like, do you want to go to Daddy's wrestling events, or do you want Daddy at your events? Mm-hmm. And they made a vote. I got 4 of them. And they're like, we would rather you come to ours. So it was. I wasn't quite ready to retire, but my kids were ready for me to retire.
But also, let me ask you this: when was the last time at Fox somebody sent you a picture of you on the floor bleeding?
It's true.
You know what it is? They don't do that. Yeah. They send a picture of their mom with a quilt that she's made for me that says "I love Tyrus."
There you go.
Or some weird stuff or they'll say stuff like, an old lady was like, "I go to bed with you every night. Every night you're in my bedroom." And her husband's like, "It's true," and you're like, "Oh,
weird."
Thank you. I don't know how to quite feel about that. So,
well, I mean, you certainly. I mean, it seems like it seemed like it was a lot quicker than it was, but you've been doing this for a long time now.
It's been over 10 years.
Yeah, but it seems like it was just went like that.
I think it did feel like that. And also, I didn't leave one for the other,
right?
Which I think is important. Will I never wrestle again? I probably will at some point, as long as I'm physically. I feel like I won't disrespect the business. And plus, I'm still mad in the bull rope match with. I forgot I had the bull rope on for a minute after I got DDT through the floor, and I went to hit the ropes, and it was the rope, so I pulled up, and then I did probably the worst splash of my entire life. Like, that's the one I'm going to be remembered for. And, like, it didn't matter anything out of the match, the coolness of the match or whatever the hell. All I'm watching is this. All I'm watching is that, and I'm just like, and it eats at you, you know.
Yeah.
But you got to let it go. You got to put it in perspective. But
well, it's like you said, you're never done. You'll find a way to come back.
I mean, hell, like Flair's hitting about wrestling again. Please don't.
Yeah.
But,
now, are you enjoying these first couple of days with Trump? I mean, it's if anything the best TV ever.
Yeah. Well, he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do.
Yeah.
I hate politics, and it's.
How could you say that?
Because doing what you say you're going to do is not political.
Right.
Keeping a promise, keeping your word is something that we should all do. The politics of it is you keep your word with an asterisk or a but or what have you or this, that, whatever. And he's not doing that because the good news is he doesn't have to run again.
Yeah.
And he can't run again. So there's no
he
doesn't have to worry about laying tracks for the future,
right.
which all politicians, all they ever do is they get in. And what do they do when they get in? All they want to do is start to rerun to get in. So everything they said. So what we're getting right now is the Democratic Party is losing their mind because he put Elon and Vivek, and we're seeing all the money laundering operations go up. But I would just like to point out that's not a Democrat thing.
That's
a
truth.
senator thing. Now the Republicans are behaving, and a congressman thing, they're behaving because they have to.
Mm-hmm.
But watch midterms, because eventually those same lobbyists that cut checks for their campaigns are going to be like, how long are you going to?
Yeah.
So that's why he's doing things so fast, because he's not. The president is one thing he's not is stupid.
Yeah.
And he knows that the swamp is all inclusive, and they work us like wrestling. They act like they're enemies in front of the camera, and then like, okay, well, you do this,
right,
and your campaign gets
making
this, and
deals,
I get this.
right?
And then my uncle gets in charge of jobs he shouldn't be having, and we saw that with the Biden family being exposed. But unfortunately that's the norm, and what we're seeing is the stopping of that, and hopefully Americans will start voting based on those who are just there to do the work. Because if you looked at politics like sports, let's take AOC for example. She is a polarizing person. She's everywhere, right? But as in the House, she's never passed a law, and she's never had anything registered in her career. She hasn't really done anything except run Amazon out of her city.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, that's not a Democrat.
That's the truth.
That's political malpractice,
Yeah.
is what it is. But because she's good on TV and says she just called Elon Musk stupid.
I saw that.
The guy makes rockets that come back.
Yeah, you probably maybe not the word.
Yeah.
If you want to make fun of the way he waves, cool.
Yeah.
He's not athletic. You can't have it all. But that just goes to, and then you have Republicans that, you'll have the guy up there with the 3-piece suit and says he talks to Jesus every day before he walks out of his house.
Right.
Turns out he's got 3 families in 4 different cities. You know what I'm saying? So it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that he's fearlessly and it's a weird thing, man. Him and we hit it off on the show, but it was how he talked to my family that I was like, you know what, man, you have to meet the man to understand the man. And that goes with anybody in life. So not everyone's going to meet the president. I got a chance to meet with him. I did an interview with him. Apparently it was all right. And ever since then, there's been like a mutual respect, and it's kind of cool, and
Sure.
But what I was most impressed with is that he would sit down with a wrestler for 40 minutes and talk world policy and talk things. And some of my ideas, which everyone thought was crazy, like, for example, I said, hey, if we treated the people who brought fentanyl in from Canada and Mexico like terrorists, the Army could get involved, the police could stick to police work, and you would not have many restrictions.
You gave him the idea.
It's on tape.
Right,
right. And I'm sure somebody else did with a
Right.
suit and a tie, but it's just, and then he was like, I never thought of it that way.
Well, that's what he's doing.
Because his first move was like anyone who gets caught selling fentanyl, I think, was the death penalty. Like, I think we're going to roll that back.
That's a little
Just a
much.
scotch.
Yeah.
Just a scotch. But I'm with you. That and the thing about not taxing, taking veterans shouldn't have to pay taxes when they come home.
Yeah, that's
I
great.
think
like
that's they paid with blood and sweat. And
Sure.
if you lost a serviceman or woman, your family should benefit from that.
Absolutely.
Because it's the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah, and it's something that I'm not doing, and I appreciate all the guys who actually do it, and guys
Yeah.
and girls who do it.
Yeah, right, because we can sit here and do this.
And because of that, yeah.
Because of them.
I did get to meet him. Guess where? At WrestleMania.
He's a wrestler.
Yeah.
He's in the Hall of Fame.
I met him at the Hall of Fame, and
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I decided to go take a leak at the right time and run into him because now I got a picture with the president.
But he's a normal guy.
Yeah, he's a normal dude.
guy.
Yeah.
Tell you like it is, whether you like it or not.
Well, I got to tell you, I was a little bit nervous in the beginning, and then I voted for him. I voted for him twice, and I'm glad that he's doing what he said he would do so quickly.
I voted for Barack twice, and I voted for President Trump 3 times. So
Wait a second.
Yeah, because he lost
missed one.
Yeah, he missed one.
Well, listen, I now you got your own show on Outkick.
I'm doing some stuff with Outkick, and then I'm getting ready to, spoiler alert, I'm launching a radio podcast show with Fox Radio here pretty soon. So, and of course, Gutfeld, you can't miss us.
Yeah.
Number one, not even close. Colbert, Kimmel, you guys keep being woke.
You know who
But we'll
talks a
take that to the
lot
break.
who talks a lot of smack about you that you should take it up when you see him is Joe Mackey. Whenever he's on the show, he's got a lot of bad things to say about you.
You know, when Joe Mackey's voice comes in, I'll, once he crosses puberty, I'll feel more comfortable smacking him around. But
I would just love to read you smacked him in the face for no reason because we started trouble.
I don't know what happened. Yeah, like Tyrus, want to work out? Let's get that bass up, and I'll see what happens. But,
Thank you so much for making time to come on over
it's
here.
a real pleasure, man.
And
It's
come
great
on the
seeing
show.
you again.
You too. I'm glad that you're having such great success. A lot of times they look at you guys, you wrestlers, like you're dummies, and there you are showing them between you and Kane and all the guys at JBL. There's guys there with brains that know what they're doing.
Listen, to get 10,000 people to cheer and love what you're doing, and everyone knows.
Yeah.
You got to be smart or a criminal. One or the other.
Tyrus, thank you very much, man. We'll take a quick break. It's the Mike Calta Show. It's 102.5 The Bone.